A very interesting story is unfolding around the loss of two unique Russian airspace forces A50 aircraft. If you remember, the first was destroyed over the Sea of Azov on January 15, and the second was shot down on February 23 over the Krasnodar region. So, to briefly recap the previous episodes, on January 15, a unique A50 aircraft was shot down over the Sea of Azov. The main version by that bloggers is friendly fire. On February 23, a second unique A50 aircraft was shot down over the Krasnodar region. The main version remains friendly fire. Military authors, mil bloggers, strongly deny all talks about Patriot missile systems. On June 10, Colonel Rosanna Clemente, aide to the Chief of Staff of the 10th U.S. Army, stated that Russian A-50 aircraft in January of this year was not shot down by friendly fire, but by Patriot missile system. On the same day, the head of the State Duma Defense Committee, Andrei Kartopolov, refuted Clemente's statement, and he was saying, "They are lying, these dogs. They are shamelessly lying. Our plane was not shot down by anyone, especially not by the Americans. They still lack the capability to shoot it down." Well, this is translation of what he thought, and this is a very mild translation. He actually said in very vulgar manner that Americans didn't grow dicks big enough to shoot anything down. So that's what Russian MP said. That's the vulgarities that he, stepped down to. So in both cases, that community and officials, they were categorically denying the use of Patriot missile systems. And then yesterday, the investigative committee of the Russian Federation, they reported that a Moscow court had granted the investigation's petition to place in custody Colonel Nikolai Dzyemany, the commander of the 138th Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. He is accused of destroying an A-50 early warning aircraft over the Krasnodar region on February 23, 2024. So, the press service of the Investigative Committee of Russian Federation reports the following. On February 23, 2024, the airspace of Russia was patrolled by an aircraft of the Russian airspace forces. So it was just patrolling. So he was not, directing Russian fighter bombers to drop glide bombs on Ukraine. No. He was just peacefully patrolling. According to the investigation, Colonel Dzyemany, realizing that the specified aircraft was not intended for combat operations, so combat aircraft, Russian military aircraft, which was directing, the flying command post, the flying radar that was directing other raiders, other fighters, other bombers to, put a strike in Ukraine. It was not military aircraft. It was not doing anything untoward. And it was not intended for command operation. I mean, when you strike a command center, there are no guns or cannons there inside of but it is the brain of the operation. And it is this flying command center, flying radar was also the brains of military operations. So it was completely legitimate military target. But, the Russians, okay. So, according to the investigation, Colonel Dzyemany, realizing that the specified aircraft was not intended for combat operation, that it was unarmed, of course it was unarmed. And the flight took place exclusively in Russian airspace. Russian combat planes constantly flying inside Ukrainian airspace, and striking Ukrainian land. And so should we pay any attention in which airspace this enemy plane was flying? That's just outrageous. So it was unarmed, and the flight took place exclusively in Russian airspace. This colonel gave an illegal order to strike Russian military targets. It's illegal to strike your enemy. Gave an illegal order to his subordinate servicemen to destroy it. These actions led to the death of 10 crew members and the destruction of the aircraft. So it was the report from the press service of the investigative committee of Russian Federation. This case is completely bogus. All this bullshit about unarmed aircraft not intended for military operations inside Russian airspace, so on and so forth. You know, these peace-loving Russians were peacefully killing Ukrainians and then suddenly and unexpectedly became victims of unprovoked attack. Yeah, but this is all bogus. But the main thing is that this case completely destroys previous narrative about friendly fire that was defended to the death by Russians. And then there was a reaction from the enemy, from the Russian Z-bloggers, mil bloggers. Okay, so осведомитель, or it's informer in English. In Russian it is осведомитель. It's Telegram channel, that blogger. So he writes, recall on February 23rd, an A50 aircraft of Russian airspace forces returning from combat mission over the Sea of Azov was shot down over the territory of Krasnodar region. If we believe the investigative committee, the plane was shot down by Ukrainian air defenses. So that was осведомитель. Then there is a well-known Telegram channel, Fighter Bomba, about Russian military aviation, and he is somehow connected to the Russian military aviation. So he is writing. So, just clearing the confusion among people from different countries about planes, horses, and people, we need to do some explanations. The discussion is likely about this A50, and then he is, pointing to his previous post, probably about this A50 shot down over the Krasnodar region. So, officially, nothing was shot down on February 23rd. The news for that day only mentioned a crash of an aircraft and burning reeds. The plane crashed 256 kilometers from the line of contact. So the Ukrainian air defense system that shot it down had to shoot from a distance of about 300 kilometers, considering it is obviously couldn't shoot from the trenches and from our territory. This automatically raises three more questions. What kind of missiles do the Ukrainians have that can hit aircraft at 300 kilometers? And where did they all suddenly disappear after this incident? Because everything that they are shooting now doesn't manage beyond 150 kilometers, which is also a lot. And if they have them, I mean, if we Ukrainians have such weapons that can, shoot down anything at 300 kilometers. Then his last question is, who placed an early warning aircraft in the enemy air defense strike zone? So the narrative changed. Now they are forced to admit that because of this inquiry from investigative committee, that it was actually shot down by Ukrainian armed forces. Then next mil blogger, it is called военный осведомитель, or it can be translated as military informant. An important fact is that the mentioned 138th Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces is equipped with American Patriot PAC-2 missile system transferred from Germany. This brigade is also responsible for the main 2023 tragedy in Bryansk. So, tragedy in Bryansk. Last May, these motherfuckers were lobbing glide bombs from Bryansk to Chernigov regions of Ukraine, and then they were ambushed by PAC-2 Patriot missile system from 138th, most probably anti-aircraft missile brigade of our armed forces. And then Germans were calling to our president and saying that it is outrageous that we are shooting Russian planes with German systems, and were threatening to withdraw and not to supply us with missiles anymore. So there was a very big gap after this incident in Bryansk region when, these aircraft were dropping bombs from Russia, glide bombs, and these bombs were gliding into Ukraine and killing our peaceful people in our land, in our territory. And we could not engage them because they were over this fictional border of Russia. Because since they violated our borders, we should not consider anything and think anything or pay any respect to their border. They violated ours. They just refused themselves of this courtesy to that their borders should be considered intact or or their border should be respected in any way. So, okay. This brigade is also responsible for the May 2023 tragedy in the Bryansk region, where several Russian airspace forces aircraft and helicopters were shot down. Additionally, a week ago, the Americans officially announced that another lost Russian A50U in January 2024 was also shot down by a Patriot missile system. So I think he is saying about this Colonel, what was her name? Sorry. Clemente. So, and then he continues that thus it can be stated that the American Patriot missile system proves capable of hitting Russian early warning aircraft at completely unexpected ranges for the Russian Airspace Forces Command, leading to the loss of 2 valuable aircraft within a month, as well as unjust, in these cases, public accusations against domestic air defenses for alleged friendly fire. Since believing in such a long-range capability of the enemy's air defense systems was extremely difficult. It was written by Russian Z-blog, Russian Telegram channel, Military Informant. So I reported from the very beginning that it was done by us, by Ukrainian armed forces, that we destroyed both of these aircraft, and some people just, even ridiculed me, saying that it was not possible to do so. That, Russians said that it was friendly fire, so that then we should believe them. You see, Russians never lie. But Russians are liars. They never trust a word from Russians. All their denials are completely false, and they inevitably refute themselves at some later date. So, subscribe to me, like this video, and Slava Ukraini!